Hey guys, it's Nik the Booksmith. Welcome back, welcome back. Well, we're nearing the finish line. Hopefully this will be the next to the last video I have on the house. I had a little bit of distraction because stuff needs to be done on my actual house, and so I had to meet with handy people. Handy people? That sounds weird. Contractors. You know what I mean. Anyway, I got back to work and I did find some acetate. It was at the dollar store and it had these, I don't know, these kid stickers in it. So, you know, you do what you got to do. Because I couldn't find any packaging, if you can believe it. But I'm just cutting out my window sizes that I measured. And then after I get all the window sizes cut out, I'm taking these coffee stirrers and cutting them down to size to make little window frames to go around. And then that way it will hold the acetate to the wall on the inside of the house, if that makes sense. The inside of the windows needed to be trimmed out anyway, so I figured this would be a good way to kill two birds with one stone, or any other horrific saying that our forefathers came up with. What was wrong with those people? Bruh. I like to sand down the edges after I trim the ends, and then that way it just, I don't know, you don't have to. It's just my OCD, so gotta be perfectly smooth. And then I'm just gonna use some white glue and glue the little ends together. They don't have to be super, super, super sturdy because once the acetate is glued on, it'll kind of hold everything together, and then it gets glued to a wall. So it's going to be okay. So this is just kind of a temporary attachment. The frames are going to get a base coat of the same paint that I put on the inside and outside of the house. I'm going to be aging, antiquing, whatever you want to call it, over the top, but it needed a nice base coat. Oh, and the reason why some of the frames look a little wider is because I used popsicle sticks as opposed to coffee stirrers. So it doesn't matter. I was just running low on the popsicle sticks, so I switched to the coffee stirrers for a minute. I could have used mat board or chipboard or anything like that as well, which probably would have been easier. So now I'm going to glue on my little acetate windows, and I decided to use some super glue just because it grabs real quick. And I would use the hot glue, but the hot glue is kind of bulky, and I didn't want there to be like a space between the window and the frame that you could see from the side. So I wanted it to be a thinner profile, I guess I should say. Look at the mess on my desk. Oh my goodness, it's awful. Anyway, I am adding in some baseboards and some trim boards around where the staircase is going to come up to the second floor. And these are popsicle sticks that I've also just pre-painted a bunch of them with the same paint. That way I could quickly cut them down and glue them on. I did use hot glue and also some super glue to attach the windows. It just depended. And this is what happens when ambitious you gets ahead of the regular you and you forget to put a hole through the ceiling for the fixture and the wires for the fireplace. Yeah. So I removed some trim for the fireplace and I removed some of the flooring so that I could put a hole in the ceiling for the light fixture. Crisis averted. Now for the fireplace. Right now, I am gluing in the little LED light that I kind of slid in there. And then this little red blob thing that you saw, that is something that I 3D printed. However, it wasn't necessary. Of course it wasn't necessary. You'll see why later. But anyway, I made it kind of look like coals. So it's basically just looks like rocks stacked on top of each other. And when I 3D printed it, it was with clear resin. You could do the same thing with clear beads, or you could just make a blob of hot glue. Seriously. Yeah. And then I colored it with a Sharpie marker. Literally, that is all I did. And now what you see is I took just some regular white glue and I glued on some foil, like little foil flakes, hoping to make it look like the coals, you know, how we'll have hot spots and the cool spots are darker. Yeah, that's what that is. And then I just went outside and grabbed some sticks and twigs to place in there as firewood. And I thought some of the firewood needed to have some charcoaly ends, hence the flame. But it really does sell it when it's got little burnt ends on there. And then, of course, I had to add a little bit of moss and twigs and little things like that just to kind of fill up the little gaps and empty spaces. Now let's check it out and see what it looks like with the lights off. Oh yeah. Let's make a light fixture. I think I accidentally deleted a little segment of video, so I'm really sorry about that. But this piece that you see me gluing on this little piece of cardstock to and painting gold is something that I 3D printed. I just built it in the 3D printing software, and it originally was supposed to be a crown, well, 2 crowns. And I added the little cross pieces through it to be able to hold on the inside of the fixture. And I don't know what these little circles are called, but this is what's going to hold the little post, the brass post that goes from the ceiling down through both pieces, and that's what the light will be wired through. It'll make sense here in a minute, I promise. Those beads on the table right there are because I thought I was see, there's the post. I thought I was going to be doing some beading with those, but I changed my mind. But I'm just gluing those pieces together with the post through the middle. There we go. And there are little holes in the bottom of these little crown pieces, and that is what I am stringing these little jump rings through. And I had 6 or 7 of these tiny little teardrop faceted crystal beads. And I thought, those look chandelier-ish, chandelier-esque. Yeah, they look dangly and sparkly. And then the light gets strung through the bottom like that. And the globe is half of a ping pong ball. And there it goes, lights up, yay! This is the medallion where it attaches to the ceiling. It is something I also 3D printed. The little middle gold thing is just a piece of jewelry finding. And then I took that outside and spray painted it all gold. And I'm using a little drill to make a hole through the ceiling, and that's where the fixture will go. Before I do some of the antiquing, I'm going to go ahead and finish putting in the windows, and these are the panes for the bay window. They get glued in with some super glue real quickly. And after that is done, I just flip that over, and I'm going to use some of the Tim Holtz oxide ink pad, whatever, and the color is, I think it's frayed burlap is the one I use, and a paintbrush. This really does bring out all the different textures in that embossed paper that I used in the ceiling. It makes it look not so new and wonderful. I am overdoing the antiquing again, just like I did on the fireplace and the staircase, because this oxide, it does wipe down fairly easily. I just take a damp paper towel or rag, and you can almost wipe it all the way off. Almost. I don't. I leave quite a bit of this antiquing, but I wanted it to look like grime in the corners and years of dust and cobwebs, and not dirty so much as it is maybe more like a decayed elegance, or things have run down a little bit. I can relate. This does take a minute because I'm using such a tiny little paintbrush, but I wanted to be able to get in the little nooks and crannies around all the little trim pieces so that I can define those edges. And I go around all the windows and the baseboards and the corners of the walls, everything. Well, you know. You know. Next, I'm going to add the medallion to the ceiling, and that's just some hot glue. I'm going to put a little dab of glue to hold those wires for me. I'll show you this a little closer in a bit, but I am twisting the wires from the light to the extended wires that will go down to the battery pack underneath the house. and I use the shrink tube to keep that all safe. Up along the top of the open side of the house, I'm going to do a little roof overlap, I guess, just a little section of the roof, just so that it looks a little, I don't know, it looks heftier or something if you add these. I've seen these on a few houses where they add this like this flange, and also the staircase gets set in as well. The staircase is glued in, but I haven't permanently attached the fireplace yet. This is a closer look that I just told you about with the wires. This is another light fixture that I built, and this is for the upstairs. The shade that you see, there's like little concentric rings almost. That's just resin that I poured into one of those silicone molds where you can make rings, you know, like finger rings. And I just made a few different sizes and stacked them together. And then the little bulb or the little round part in the bottom is one of those little miniature potion bottles like you can get from Hobby Lobby. There's like a little pack of, I don't know, 6 or 7 or something. And I just swirled around some watered down white paint on the inside and then poured it out. And it gives it this milky kind of look. And then the little leaves are just some little jewelry findings that I glued on to the top of that upper ring. And then I used another one of those little cardstock circles like I put on the other light fixture. And I glued that down into that top ring. And that's how this light fixture has its LED strung through. And then that way you don't see any wires. It just looks like an old-fashioned light fixture. All right, kids, well, that is it for this one. Kind of a quicker video this time, but I'm almost done with this house. Am I going to furnish it? I don't know. I don't really want to buy any furniture. I'd have to make it, and that would take me an extra month. So maybe it'll just be an unfinished, gorgeous little house that somebody else can furnish. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. The next video should be adding the roof and lighting up the lights. Maybe I'll make a little bit of furniture, maybe a carpet. I don't know. Please let me know what you think down in the comment section. How far should I go with this thing? I'm kind of at a loss. Not real sure. I think the next video, though, in between this one and finishing up the house, will be a different video. I want to make a miniature book or something of that sort. So there will be a little break in between this one and the next house video. We haven't done that in a minute. And before I go, today's comment shout out goes to Penelope Marshall. On my last video, she says, "If we ever need to go into survival mode, I'd want you on my team. God help us, we may need to put a not-so-miniature roof over our head, and you, my friend, would know just where to start. With the mini fireplace, of course." Thanks, Penny. That cracked me up. And thanks to everybody for hanging out with me. I hope you are all having an excellent week, and I will see you all really, really soon in the next video. Bye, guys.